18 Feb. 65. Dearest Suzie, I received a letter from you today, and I was very glad to get it. I think today has been the blackest day of my life. I went out to shoot autorotations with Captain West, my platoon leader. I tried to show him a good straight in autorotation, and I crashed. I am afraid that the helicopter was totaled, and I guess we are lucky to be alive. But I am probably finished as an IP. I got your tape yesterday, and I really got a kick out of the boys. Things are about the same over here, although I guess this is the worst I have ever felt since I started flying. Please excuse this short letter. I can't seem to get my mind on writing tonight, but I love you very much, and I need you, especially right now. All my love, Bill. This letter is unlike any of the others we've seen so far. Popi has written about exhaustion, stress, and even moments of fear, but this time his words carry something different: self-doubt. The phrase he uses to describe the day is striking: the blackest day of my life. Considering that he has already faced enemy fire, high-risk missions, and the constant uncertainty of war, this statement carries a heavy weight. Something about this crash cut deeper than anything he had experienced before. As a pilot, Popi knew the risks of flying, especially in Vietnam, where helicopters were constantly under strain, heavy loads, unpredictable terrain, and relentless combat conditions. But this wasn't a crash in combat. This was a training exercise, a controlled maneuver meant to demonstrate skill and precision, and yet it ended in disaster. He doesn't dwell on the physical damage, though we can assume the helicopter was a total loss, since he writes, "I'm afraid that the helicopter was totaled, and I guess we are lucky to be alive." Instead, what truly weighs on him is what this means for his role. Popi was an instructor pilot, responsible for training other aviators, and his fear isn't just about the accident, it's about what it might cost him. "I'm probably finished as an IP." That sentence alone tells us how much his identity as a pilot and teacher mattered to him. It wasn't just a title, it was something he took pride in. If his leadership no longer trusted him to train others, what did that say about his abilities? What did that say about him? His confidence, something so crucial to a pilot, seemed shaken for the first time. Popi has been through combat, through dangerous troop lifts, through long days and nights with little rest. He has written about exhaustion, about restrictions and alert status, about wishing the war would stay quiet for the next 7 months. But this is different. His letter is short, almost hesitant, as if he can't bring himself to say more. Even when things were difficult before, his letters always contained details, updates, and observations, but now it's as if he's struggling to find the words. It's telling that this is the first time we see him truly rattled. Combat was dangerous, but it was also expected. There was an understanding that enemy fire was part of the job. A crash during a training exercise, though? That felt different. That felt avoidable. And for someone who prided himself on his skill, that realization had to sting. He writes, "I guess this is the worst I ever have felt since I started flying." That's a strong statement, and it tells us just how much this moment affected him. Perhaps the most vulnerable moment in this letter comes at the very end. Popi doesn't just sign off with love, he reaches out in a way he hasn't before. "I love you very much, and I need you, especially right now." It's raw, almost desperate, and it shows just how shaken he is. There's nothing Suzie can do from halfway across the world, but just writing to her, knowing she'll read his words, seemed to be a form of comfort. Throughout his letters, we've seen how much he relies on the connection to home. It's what keeps him grounded, what gives him a sense of normalcy in a world that is anything but normal. In this moment of doubt, she is the one person he turns to. This letter isn't about reporting his day or making conversation, it's about reassurance. He needs to feel that despite what happened, he is still the man he was before the crash. That he is still the husband, father, and pilot that he wants to be. This letter marks a turning point in Popi's deployment, not necessarily in terms of his career, but in terms of how he sees himself. Up until now, his letters have been steady. Even when things were difficult, he seemed to take it all in stride, but now, for the first time, he sounds uncertain. He doesn't just sound tired, he sounds lost. It makes you wonder, how does he recover from this? How does he pick himself back up and keep flying? And perhaps the most important question of all, does this moment change the way he sees himself as a pilot? The photo I chose for today depicts a crashed helicopter in a field. This is almost certainly not the one Popi was flying, but it is at least a good example of what it could have looked like. I'm Alex Lowy, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my Popi wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.